What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Studio Chatter podcast. I'm Craig Reeves. This is going to be the most renegade episode ever. It's going to be definitely different from what I normally do. So why am I doing an Ask Me Anything? Because I actually planned on having a guest on this week, but scheduling conflicts on both sides beyond our control forced us to have to postpone to a little bit later. I was going to have an interview with Huldra, the duo of musicians who put out that fantastic record called Rari with Dear Evergreen, who's a friend of the show. And shout out to Dear Evergreen because she really facilitated making that happen. She thought it'd be a great idea to have Huldra on the show, and so she was able to provide a hookup to that. So it's always great when, fellow people who were once on the show show their support. And so shout out to our good friend, Dear Evergreen. Also, I want to say that I'm very happy for the recovery of Elise. So Elise fell ill earlier this week. She had to go in for emergency surgery, and thankfully she's better now. But she told the story of having to literally go to the emergency room on an electronic scooter, on an electronic scooter. Boy, that woman's tough as nails. She was in a lot of pain. And so we're very, very happy that she's okay. Elise has been an amazing supporter of the show, and she was the very first guest. So, yeah. All right. So you guys sent me questions, and I'm going to answer every one of them because I didn't get that many. Most of the questions I got in DMs, which I wasn't really expecting. Some of the questions are pretty personal, but I'm going to answer them. Okay. Because again, I'm an open book here. All right. So, anyway, I'm going to answer them in no particular order in which I got them. I'm just going to answer them as I see them on my list. So the first question is, have you gotten your COVID vaccine? The answer is yes. I did get my COVID vaccine. I got it in April of this year. It was the Moderna. So I am fully vaccinated. My second shot, I got April 19th, which was the day before I got my first cancer screening. So a lot of people are probably aware that there was a huge cancer scare this year that I had. I was very sick, and the signs pointed to cancer according to the symptoms that I was reporting. It turns out that I was cancer-free. Both cancer screenings turned up negative. So the shot that I got was the Moderna. They say that the Moderna one, the first dose is rough, but the second one's not that bad. And the Pfizer one is the opposite. They said the Pfizer one, the first one's not that bad, but the second one is brutal. Well, quite frankly, I didn't have any problems with either. So that would be my experience with it. So I'm probably due for a booster next month because I think after 6 months, they say you should get a booster. So perhaps, well, actually this month I would need to get a booster because I got it April 19th. So they say 6 months after you get the second shot, you want to get a booster. So I guess I'll probably be looking into that. So another question that I get often, and this question I get all the time, and it's, when will you get X guest on? All right. When are you going to get this guest or that guest? Here's the thing, guys. All I can do is ask. Okay. That's all I can do. And I'll mention one person by name, and that is Maddie J. I have been asked about Maddie J all the time, right? I mean, you guys really want Maddie J to come on. I want Maddie J to come on. I've reached out to Maddie J more times than anybody else. Okay. And it just hasn't happened. I'm sure it will at some point, but y'all got to understand, Maddie J is extremely busy. All right. And I can promise you, and look, Maddie J is my friend. Maddie J has been very supportive of me in the past. And so I'm sure that Maddie has nothing against me at all. And I'm sure that she would do it if she could. So there's no issues between myself and Maddie J, at least not that I'm aware of. But the thing is, look, Maddie J is going to listen to her fans. If there's enough demand from her fans that she come on the show, then she'll do it. All right. But I tell you guys all the time, it's going to take, you guys really trying to get that person to come on. It's going to take demand, right? It's going to say, hey, Maddie, we'd love to see you come on Craig's show. That's what it's going to take. So all I can do is reach out. Like pretty much everybody that y'all have wanted for me to reach out to, that it would make logical sense for me to reach out to, I've reached out to them. Okay. I mean, I have. All right. So another question, this one's interesting. Have I ever gotten nervous before an interview? So that one is a very common question that I get. Do you get nervous? And the answer is I've only gotten nervous for one episode. And that was the very first one I did. And that was the one with Elise. And the reason was because I've never done it before. I've never done a podcast episode. I guess I would say a little bit that I got a little bit nervous before the last episode, which was with Electrolyte Orchestra, but it had nothing to do with him. He was fantastic. But it was because the internet connection on my end was really bad that day. And plus, I was interviewing him. He's in Australia. All right. And it's a very far distance. And so I was afraid that the quality wouldn't be as good, that we would have to re-record it. But the quality turned out great. So that would be the only other one that I might have been a little bit nervous for. But I don't typically get nervous before an interview. What typically makes me nervous is when it's late in the week and I still haven't scheduled a guest. That is the most nerve-wracking thing, all right? Trying to schedule these interviews is by far the most nerve-wracking thing. I can't even tell y'all how nerve-wracking it is when it's Wednesday and I still haven't scheduled a guest. A funny story with Dear Evergreen, boy, I tell you, Dear Evergreen has been a lifesaver, right? Like Dear Evergreen has just been a saint, but there was one guest that I had in mind who I really wanted to be on the show. And I'll just mention him because I don't think he'll mind. It was Blue Cloud. All right. Blue Cloud couldn't make it that week and it was late in the week. And so I was almost going to be out of a guest. But then Dear Evergreen came out of nowhere and she ended up on the show. Now, I actually had planned on Dear Evergreen coming on the week after, but she had just done the big Twitch thing and that would have been a better time for her to come on. And so she came on that week and we had a great discussion and it was fantastic. It really, truly was. So that was a really good one. But as far as getting nervous, the most nerve-wracking thing is trying to get people on. I get more nervous trying to ask people to come on the show than having them on the show. Once they're on the show, I'm usually pretty good. All right. So another question that I get is, do you like Georgia more than Texas? Now, most people know that I'm originally from Texas. And I wouldn't say that I like Georgia more. What I would say is I lived in Texas. I grew up in Texas. And so a lot of the people who I knew in Texas knew me since I was a little kid. And so a lot of people still saw me as that little socially awkward kid because I was very socially awkward when I was a little kid. I didn't kind of grow into my own socially until I was in high school. But people still kind of saw me like that. And I had a weird speech impediment when I was young that I got over. And what's the funniest thing is that people always compliment me on my diction. People always compliment me on my speaking style and on my cadence and on my voice and all that kind of stuff. I was teased relentlessly when I was a kid because of the way I spoke. I had a weird speech impediment. I would drag words out. Like I would say, so long. Like I still do that sometimes. Like some people will still hear that when I do it, but it's gotten a lot better. And the way that I overcame it was literally by recording myself talking. So that was the way that I overcame it. But the thing with Georgia, what's nice about it is that people didn't know me when I was a little kid. I was able to create a new avatar for myself. I was able to present myself in a way where I didn't have the baggage of my past. I wasn't, the little kid who couldn't tie his shoes until he was in middle school. I wasn't that, you know what I mean? And I didn't have to carry that baggage with me, right? A lot of the so-called friends I have on Facebook were people I went to high school with, people who knew me when I was, and so I'm always still going to be that little nerdy kid to them. And so it's not like I don't like Texas. I do. It's just my particular situation, it's just not the same. And plus a lot of members of my family really don't believe in me. They really don't. You'll be surprised. They really don't believe in me. And it's not because they don't think I'm good. It's because there's a whole lot of musicians in my family who didn't make it. And so when they see another musician in the family who is trying to pursue this, they're going to lump me in with them. So yeah, I personally have had a better experience in Georgia, but it's only because of my particular situation. Texas is a great state and it's a great place to live. So I'm not trashing Texas, but my particular situation, yeah, I like Georgia better, particularly Atlanta. All right, so another question I've gotten, and this one is really personal. It's not super personal. It's more like a fun question because the person that asked it was kind of tongue-in-cheek. But have I ever had a crush on one of my guests? Now, the person that asked me this was totally tongue-in-cheek, all right? So let me say this. Yeah, I don't know what one means when they say crush. I guess I would say yes and no, because if you mean crush by saying, okay, so I'm heterosexual, I've never been attracted to men, all right? So if I were to catch feelings for somebody, it'd be a woman, right? And I've had women on this show. So if you mean, have I ever had a crush on any of the women who have been on this show, the answer would be no. I'm going to be completely honest with you. All right. And here's also something else. I've never had feelings for any female musician. Never. Okay. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that you shouldn't date female musicians. Obviously, I think dating a musician is perfectly fine. I'd be a hypocrite if I told people not to date a musician because I'm a musician, or at least I try to be. The thing is, though, I personally have never fell in love with a musician. I haven't, right? I mean, I've never been in a relationship with a musician. I've never had a desire to be in a relationship with a musician. The women who have been on this show, I think any guy would be lucky to have them. I mean, I think a lot of them are already with someone. A lot of them are already, Nitty is married. And obviously Elise has a boyfriend who I'd love to get on the show, by the way. And then Magda Helena has Mowgli, who I'm a huge fan of and everything. But like the thing is, I don't see the women that I work with in that way at all. Like I just don't. I really don't. I promise you. Like you could hook me up to a lie detector. I don't. I really don't. I mean, and they don't see me that way, quite frankly. And so yeah, I the answer would be no if that's what you're referring to as a crush. Now, if you're referring to, have I ever had a crush from a modern definition of crush, because I think the modern definition would be like a girl crush where you just really admire somebody, then that would be everybody. That'd be everybody I've had on this show. That would be the men I've had on this show. I mean, it's kind of difficult to not be thoroughly impressed by the people that have been on this show. I think the guests that I've had have been pretty freaking amazing. So if that is what you're referring to as a crush, then yeah, everybody. I've had a crush on everybody on this show. So yeah. So the next question, this one is probably the most common question I got, and it is, when will I be able to come on your show? So I'm going to try to explain the best that I can the way I schedule guests, who comes on, who doesn't come on, etc. All right. So here's the thing. Number one, these shows are an hour. Okay. Most of the time, these shows are an hour. They're 40 minutes to an hour. All right. I got to have confidence that I'm going to have something to talk about for an hour. Okay. So a lot of people that come to me, it's like they don't have anything out. I go to their Twitter. They're not active on social media. They're not active on Instagram. They don't have any music out. Like, what are we going to talk about? Right now, okay, you could come to me with something that you want to talk about. What you'll notice a lot of the time, the people that I bring on are people who have something they're trying to promote. You understand? Or they are people that my listeners have been wanting for a long time, right? So you look at somebody like Bad Snacks. Bad Snacks is somebody who people have wanted for a long time. Dressage had come out with Terror Nights and Terror Days. She came out with her EP. She was coming out with the acoustic stuff. Again, people have something to talk about. There's stuff to talk about. Again, it's not that, oh, you're not famous enough. No, there's got to be something for me to talk about. And then there's another criteria, and this one might be a little bit more controversial. But yeah, I have to think you're good enough. That's just a fact. Okay. I have to think that musically your content is strong enough, because look, I'm promoting your stuff. If I don't believe in your music, if I don't like it, either you better have a lot of my fans, a lot of my listeners want you on, because I'm there to serve my listeners, right? And my listeners trust me too. My listeners trust my taste in music, all right? And so the thing is, now if I don't care for your music and, a lot of my listeners love your music, then yeah, I'll bring you on, because while I may not love your music, my listeners love your music and I want to serve my listeners. All right. But if you don't have a big fan base, okay, if you don't have a big fan base, which most of the guests that I have right now don't, then you better make a fan out of me. All right. I got to be a fan. Like, if you don't have a lot of fans, then I need to be a fan. So yeah, I got to like your stuff, because I'm not going to say that I love your stuff. Like, everybody that's come on this show, I like their stuff. And here's the thing, right? I will let you know if I don't like your stuff. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to keep it straight up with you, right? If you want to come on my show and I listen to your music and I don't think it's very good, I'm going to tell you, listen, I'm really happy that you reached out to me, but after reviewing your content, I don't think it's quite strong enough yet. Right? Now, I've never told somebody that. Okay, I haven't had that conversation, but I will. And I know that might seem harsh, but I would want somebody to tell me that. I'm going to be honest with people. All right. And if they ask me, what can I improve? I'll let them know. I'll be constructive if they ask me. All right. If they say, oh, really? You don't think my content's strong enough? Why not? I'll tell them. I'll try to be as constructive as I can, but I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to just ghost them and say, sorry, but we reviewed your content. We didn't think your stuff was good enough. And they'll say, well, what was wrong with it? And I don't answer back. I don't do that. Right. Because I understand, right? If somebody tells me, hey, your stuff isn't good enough, I'm going to want to know why. Well, I'm going to tell you why. All right. So that is my criteria. But a lot of the times, and other people who I've reached out to, who have asked me, so when am I going to come on? You asked me, your time is coming. All right. A lot of times interviews are scheduled weeks in advance. All right. And a lot of times it's because I know you're going to be releasing something and I want to wait until after you release it. All right. So that happens a lot too. Okay. So another question that I got is, do you think location is an important thing to consider for your career? Yes, I do. The reality is I know that we're all more connected on the internet than ever before. I realize that, but here's the reality. Okay. You are not going to be as likely to be considered by high profile people if you're very far away. All right. That's just the way it is. I know that that's hard to hear, but people with options, okay, because like the people you want to network with and collab with, the people who have options, they have a lot of options. Why pick a talented person who lives in Idaho far from them if they can pick a talented person who lives in Los Angeles? Somebody who's just as talented as you, they're going to pick that person almost every time. All right. So that's just the reality of it. I mean, there is a reason why even in today's internet age that, you know, people are having to travel to other places and do all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, Berkeley is a huge networking ground, you know, and I'll tell you this, that people at Berkeley, they get to know each other. And I promise you that a lot of the folks who are now working together, you know, they probably would not have worked together had they not all been at Berkeley. Physically, you're never going to replace physical proximity. You're just never going to. Because again, it's just like I said before, I mean, if there are talented people in your backyard, you're more likely to work with those talented people than talented people across the country. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how the cookie crumbles. The people within physical proximity are always going to have an advantage over you. That's just the way it is. So yeah, location is important. So another question that I got was production always the goal for my career, or was it originally something else? So was I pursuing one thing and then became a producer, or was it always production? This is actually a really complicated answer that I'm going to give, but it was really kind of both. When I was 16, when I started producing, I'm 37 now, so yeah, that's a long time. I had dreamed about being a producer, sure. I wanted to do it, but I didn't think there was any chance that I would do it. So I went to college and I majored in piano performance and composition. And that was going to be my career path. You know, I was going to teach music or do whatever. And that was going to be what I did. Was it something I truly was happy doing? Not really, you know, but I did not think there was any chance of me becoming a producer. And so I didn't pursue it, even though I loved it. Well, it got to the point where I made the decision to pursue what I loved because I really was not happy. Any sort of, any sort of love or passion that I had for classical music was beaten out of me at university. It was. And so I fell into a depression, and I just knew what I had to do. And so I dropped out my senior year, and I ended up pursuing production full time. This was in 2007. So yeah, I mean, definitely production was always something I wanted to do, but I got sidetracked. All right, so this now is a question that I ask on every episode, but it's been turned back on me. Craig, how did you go from a little kid playing Sonic the Hedgehog to the great musician we see today? Well, first of all, to the person who asked me this question, they actually said Super Mario Kart, but I've asked that question. It's got to be different every time. I asked Josiah the Mario Kart one. You got to go with something different. So I changed it to Sonic the Hedgehog, but I obsessively played Super Mario Kart. I was obsessed with that game. I played it all the time. Like every day I played it. I owned it on Super Nintendo. And I beat it several times. I beat it on the hard level and all of that. Because there's a hard level that you unlock after you beat it the first time. And I beat it on that level too. And I obsessively played Sonic the Hedgehog, particularly Sonic and Knuckles and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, let me go ahead and start from the beginning. So, there's actually two of us. There's me and my twin brother, Chris. And yes, Chris will be on the show at some point. We're going to wait a little bit on that because we want to wait till the show gets bigger before I invite Chris on. But yeah, I have a twin brother, and we were born in December 30th, 1983 in the not tiny, it was a relatively small town of Longview, Texas. The hometown of Matthew McConaughey, the hometown of Forrest Whitaker. And yeah, a piano was rolled in the house when we were, four years old. And it was originally for our mother because, her mother played piano, and her aunts played piano. And so she wanted to take piano lessons. And because of that, a piano, like an old upright piano, was rolled into the house. And me and Chris would beat on that piano. Like, we would not make music. It was just like, like we didn't have like prodigious talent. That was not me and Chris. And our parents couldn't get us to stop. And so they told us, well, we can't get you to stop beating on the piano. So if you're going to keep us up all night, you're at least going to sound good doing it. And so they told us that we were not allowed on the piano anymore unless we took piano lessons. So of course we did. And so me and Chris, we took piano lessons for quite some time. And then a life-changing event took place. Well, the first life-changing event took place. Me and Chris, for Christmas, it was the only thing we got because, we didn't come from a rich family at all, okay? But we got like an electronic keyboard. All right. Now, I know that a lot of people remember the old Casio keyboards and stuff like that. Well, this was a Yamaha. All right. And it was kind of the equivalent of like an old Casio. And this was when we were 12, I believe. Maybe 11. No, we were 11 because we were in the 5th grade. And when we were taking piano lessons, we used to make up songs on the piano, like just silly songs and stuff, like just ridiculous songs that had stupid lyrics. And I was a huge fan of R&B. Surprise, surprise. I had the most pathetic crush on Brandy when I was a little kid. I had the most pathetic crush on SWV. If y'all have never heard of SWV, they're like a R&B girl group that was very popular in the early 90s. I had the worst crush on them. And I would try to play their music on the piano. And that's how I got good at playing by ear, by the way, because I started doing that when I was a little kid. Well, one day, when I got the keyboard, I hit the demo button. So keyboards back then, and I think they still do, they had a demo button. You could hit the demo and you'd hear this full arrangement. And I was just wrapped. So I was under the impression that if I got this keyboard, I would be able to do that. Now, this was back in 95, okay? There wasn't a computer in every home back then, all right? And plus, computers weren't very powerful back then either. So it's not like I had MIDI and all that. In fact, I don't even know what MIDI was. Well, I ended up asking my piano teacher at the time, how can I get that? Because I looked all throughout the manual for my keyboard and I didn't see how to get that sound. I didn't see how I could make a song like that, like the demo. And she told me, oh no, Craig, you gotta hook it up to a sequencer to do that with MIDI. And I didn't know what that was. And she explained it to me. And fast forward a couple of years. So this was my freshman year in high school. This was 98. All right. 98. And we end up getting a computer. It's a very, very poor computer. Our parents get us a computer because they think that it's going to help us in high school. Right. Now, actually, I don't recall ever using the computer in high school, but we ended up getting a computer. It was a compact Presario. It was a really crappy computer, even by standards of then, but it was a crappy computer, but we were close to having MIDI. Well, our sister for Christmas that year ended up getting us something called a MIDI kit. And basically the MIDI kit was just a MIDI cable, a little MIDI interface, and a horrible, and I mean horrible, MIDI sequencing software called MIDIsoft Studio. Okay, even by the standards of 1998, it was a piece of crap. But my God, I loved it. I spent all day on it because I could finally do some MIDI sequencing. Definitely rudimentary. My songs weren't any longer than 30 seconds, and they were completely unquantized and sounded like crap. But I had the time of my life because we had 2 weeks off for Christmas. I barely slept. Okay, it was just the greatest thing ever. And I remember making a little floppy disk of, because back then you had floppies, all right, of MIDI files. And I tried to put them in my mom's computer and play them. And the way MIDI works is that it's going to sound different on a different computer because it uses a different sound card. And they sounded like crap because because my MIDI played through my keyboard, but the MIDI played through her sound card and she didn't have a good sound card. So it was FM synthesis and it sounded like crap, but she just cried. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe you made this. This is so good. And so our mom took us out to Best Buy and she bought us Magic's Music Maker. Now, Magic's Music Maker was a terrible DAW, but at least it was a DAW. It was a terrible DAW, but it was a DAW. And this was when we were 15. All right. So, okay. So we used that for about 2 years, and this was up until we were around 16. Now, we were in high school at this time, and basically the football team started putting out freestyle rap CDs, okay? And, we would rap over beats that were already out, like for instance, it's some Timbaland song or whatever, like Missy Elliott song, and the instrumental we would rap over. Well, me and Chris were like, hey guys, we actually have a keyboard at home, and, we had moved up to Cakewalk by then. And we also had a couple of more things. We had a JV 1080, we had an MPC, and all that kind of stuff. So we had more stuff at that time. The MPC actually got from a next door neighbor who was going off to the army. So ended up getting that, learned on the MPC, and we were making beats on the MPC and everything. So by then we were doing a little bit more. And so that's why I always say I started producing when I was 16, because that was the first time I started working with rappers, which were members of the football team. And so we would, we'd all go over to my house. We would all record. It was the cheesiest thing ever, but that's what we would do. And we would put out these CDs and everything, and people liked it, right? I mean, people would listen to it before the game, and I look back on it, it was cheesy as hell, but we thought we were so cool and everything, because, it was the early 2000s, and it was Texas, and, every black kid in school thought they were cool and all that kind of stuff. Well, we ended up graduating from high school, and at that time, I didn't think there was a future in what I was doing. It was just something I did for fun. And so I majored in music. I majored in piano performance and composition. And so I go through 3 years of college. And am I happy? Not really. But I kind of try to force myself to be happy. I try to learn to be happy. And it's not like I didn't have good times, and it's not like I didn't learn life lessons and, even some musical things. But, I ended up dropping out after my 3rd year, and I start to take music production seriously, because it's not like I wasn't producing while I was in college. I was, because there were like some wannabe singers and stuff like that while I was in college locally who I would make music for, make beats for, and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. I would make beats in my dorm room and stuff like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing it. Well, fast forward to 2007, and I would get my first management deal. And this would be where I would say me and my brother really started to take it seriously, when we really were pursuing it seriously. I would do a lot of beat battles. There was a beat battle competition that I got very close to winning. And these were big competitions, right? I mean, these are not like small things. They were hosted by Rockwilder on a site called rockbattle.com. I was very active on that site. And actually got to meet some producers who would end up becoming some pretty big names. There was a producer who I worked very closely with by the name of Youngfire. Now, Youngfire actually is a major producer now. Youngfire has worked extensively with T-Pain, and he's worked with Tech-9, he's worked with Britney Spears, and he's a multi-platinum producer, and he has his own Wikipedia page and everything. So I worked very closely with Youngfire, and Youngfire and I were very good friends. Another producer who I was very close to also was Paperboy Fabe. Worked with him. And it was really through that beat battle site, because I battled with these people, and, we had fun making beats. And this was like 2007 through 2009. I was still living in Texas at the time. I had management at the time, and I met my mentor. His name is Sirocco Jones. He passed away this year from COVID in January. He's really the person that was instrumental in helping us start VIP Sound Circle. And it was very devastating to all of us at VIP Sound Circle when he passed away from COVID this year. But that's when I met him. And he was an A&R for an imprint called Oceanic Trade Winds. And I got to meet the head of Oceanic Trade Winds, who was the former head of Clear Channel Radio. And so through that, I ended up getting a lot of deals. A lot of opportunities came my way, good paying opportunities. And I eventually moved to Atlanta because that's where my mentor lived. So we got to work on some very cool projects. And me and my brother, we ended up getting signed. Nothing came of the deal. I can't talk much about it, but I'll just say it was a disaster. And it put me into a depression for a while. This was 2013. And I still did music, but I wasn't as serious about it. It was more of like a glorified hobby. But then, 2018 came around and I ended up just putting the foot back on the gas again. I lost a bunch of weight. I was once much heavier than I am now. I lost like 150 pounds. So I was very heavy, but I lost a lot of weight, still losing, but I, was very heavy, 3 years ago. So I just got my life back together and ran into this community and it's really been great ever since. So that is my origin story. So this question kind of goes hand in hand with the other question is, if you could do something over in your career, what would it be? I would probably say, honestly, looking over the fine print before signing a deal. I tell everybody now to lawyer up before signing a deal. I mean, you want to get your own lawyer to give you all the details of what you're signing. Don't rely on their lawyer to tell you. All right. Get your own lawyer. Trust me, you might have to pay a fair amount of money for a lawyer, but it's worth it. Believe me. I mean, if there is a contract that's serious, like if you're going to be signing a record deal, like even if it's an independent deal, if you're going to be signing your life over, now if it's just one song, that's one thing. But if you're signing as an artist to a label, I understand, they're going to sell you dreams. They're going to tell you, oh, you're going to be a star. Guys, they're trained to hype you up. All right. Label executives literally are trained to hype you up. They're trained to make you feel like you're going to make it, like this is what you want. You got to get a lawyer to look at that contract and tell you exactly what you're getting yourself into. I tell everybody that now. I tell all my friends who are going to get signed, I tell them, look, I know you're excited, but you've got to hire a lawyer and have them look at it. All right. You have to. Okay. I've even offered to people, look, use our lawyer. Okay. VIP Sound Circle has a lawyer. Look, I'll call my lawyer and I'll have her look at it for you. Okay. Like, please, like, I don't want y'all to, get into the same situation that me and Chris got into. So it's very important before you sign your life away. I'm going to sign your life away, but if before you put your career in the hands of a label, I don't care how reputable the label is, you still need to know what you're getting yourself into. I don't care if it's Universal Republic. Okay. A lot of artists have failed on Universal Republic. All right. Don't think that everybody who gets signed to a record deal is going to make it. All right. Because again, it's going to depend all about the terms of the deal. Okay. Are they going to promote you? Are they going to, because here's the thing. If you fail, it's always your fault. Even if they don't promote you at all. That's one thing about labels that people have to remember. Because if you don't sell what they expect you to, it's always your fault. They're never going to blame themselves. Even if they railroad you, even if they screw you 10 times over every step of the way, like even if they just handcuff you to death and just completely sabotage your career, if you fail, it's your fault. And that is every label every major label. All right. So just be careful out there. Lawyer up. If you are being handed a contract of any kind, whether it be a record deal, whether it be a publishing deal, whether it be a management deal, it doesn't matter. Okay. Please lawyer up. That's what I would have done differently because I didn't do that. So the next question is, what does success look like going forward? Well, success for me would be doing what I love to do. I am not interested in being famous. I'm not. Really, I'm not. Like, what I'm interested in is getting other people to benefit off of my music, getting other artists to become famous off of my music. I want to make hits. That's what I want to do. I want to break artists, right? I want to be Phineas. All right. Phineas broke Billie Eilish. Okay. I want to be Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre broke NWA. All right. Like, these are the heroes I look up to. Seriously. I want to be Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley broke Guy, broke Keith Sweat. Well, kind of broke Keith Sweat. All right. You know, I want to be those guys. I want to be people that make stars, that make hits for stars. You know, I want to be Lil Jon, who broke the East Side Boys. You know, I want to be that. I mean, how many artists has Max Martin broken? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I want to be. I mean, you know, Max Martin broke Britney Spears. You know, I want to do that. Like, I want other artists to become icons for my production. You know, I want to be Quincy Jones. I'm not interested in really being an artist, and nothing against people who want to do that. I mean, that's great if you want to do that, but that's success for me, man. That's nothing puts a smile on my face more than, you know, seeing the look on somebody's face when they're like, man, I did not think I could sound that good. I love it. Another question. Do I still use Cakewalk? Yes, I still use Cakewalk. I know that it's been all about Ableton as of late, which I use both. So Ableton I use for the beat making process, and then everything else I use Cakewalk for. So, but it's not like I don't do any beat making in Cakewalk, because a lot of the times after the vocals have been recorded, there's stuff I want to do with the production. There's stuff I want to add. There's stuff I want to take away. So I do that in Cakewalk. What do I think about the new generation of beat makers? Oh man, this one. You know what? The producers today are far more advanced than I was when I was their age. When I look at people like Elise is so much better than I was at 20. I mean, if you listen to the stuff that I was doing at 20, it was a disaster. And then I look at somebody like Magda Helena, who I really still learn a lot from. I mean, you know, Magda Helena and I are working on some projects right now. And man, she's amazing. Like, I knew she was good, but I'm just like really impressed with her. And she's only 23. And, you know, I look at these folks like Nico. You know, Nico is insane. You know, Nico puts out a new album every other week. And every one of them are dope too. Like, I try to listen to as many of them as I can. And then you have Jay Herlock, who's a monster. And then you've got Dear Evergreen. Oh my goodness. I mean, you know, you've got Holdra, and you've got, you know, these cats out here who are just killing it. I mean, they're insane. These people today. And then freaking More Kismet 17. You know what I'm saying? And already is on Universal. And yeah, the new beat makers today are very impressive. I mean, the people of old, the old generation, folks my age, you know, and look, the old guard, man, we have a lot of respect for y'all. We really do, because y'all know way more than we did when we were y'all's age. Like, there were 23, 24-year-old producers who were really good, but they were rare, right? Like, they would get picked up by, you know, a label or something like that really quick. All right. But today, I mean, it's like a dime a dozen. You know what I mean? It's like every other great producer is like 22 or 23, and you have Icon Collective now, and you've got just so much more knowledge available. And so, yeah, it's amazing. It really is. I'm impressed every day with what I see. But what do I think about amongst the new generation of producers? What do I think about the pretentious people out there? You know, you're always going to have people like that. There were pretentious people that existed during my time when I was young. I mean, in the 2000s, you had people who were pretentious. I mean, Dressage, for instance, when she was in college, people would literally tell her point blank, you can't do this because you're a girl. I mean, that's what people would tell her. So even during our time, people would say that, and people would say that to me. Like I remember, you know, when I was doing the beat battle thing, people would tell me all the time, "Oh, Craig, you suck," and they wouldn't even have heard my music. You know, there were all kinds of pretentious people when I was on the scene when I was young. I mean, that's part of it. You know, you're always going to have people like that. They're always going to exist. And there's really not much you can do about it. I mean, it just kind of shows you that things are normal. So here's a fun one. What's your favorite food? Honestly, it changes every day. I don't have a favorite food, so I just don't have one. Is there anything planned that I'm excited about in the future? Yes, definitely. I'm definitely excited about the music that I'm working on now. Definitely going to be releasing some new stuff, working with some cool producers on some stuff. And I'm excited about it. Most people know that I'm working on some content that I'm going to be releasing. I know it's been a minute since I've released some stuff, but it's all going to come out all at once. So that's the thing. And I'm really excited about it. Okay, let me see if I'm missing any questions here. Oh, what is my favorite project that I've ever worked on? Oh boy. Oh man. I know this is going to sound really disappointing, but I don't really have a favorite. I really don't. I mean, I have projects that are amongst my favorite, but I don't really have a favorite, to be honest with you. I mean, I really don't. Like I've been very happy with every project I've done. I've never had a project where I was just so unhappy. Well, I probably have, but I haven't remembered those. Yeah, some of the projects that I had to take on when I first moved to Atlanta, yeah, those are dreadful. But for the most part, I mean, I haven't had any difficulty as far as finding projects that I like. I try to stay away from projects I don't like. I usually know when there's a project I'm not going to like, and I've been fortunate to where I didn't have to take on projects that I didn't like. So, all right. I think that is all the questions that I've gotten. I'm looking here and I've marked them all off. So anyway, guys, I hope that you all enjoyed this. And like I said before, we were going to have Holdra on this week, but we had to postpone it. And again, it was really just scheduling conflicts. They definitely want to come on, but you know, it just didn't work out. And I would definitely encourage y'all to check out their single called Rari with Dear Evergreen. It's great. And I'm going to talk to them about that the next time I get to. Anyway, guys, y'all be blessed and thank you for your support.